It's said that news is the first draft of history. But given how biased, one-sided, and disgustingly free of fact some of the news in the modern world is, it's more like fake news, I'm increasingly distrusting of what calls itself news. And frankly, I'd rather wait on history, given that it's going to have some perspective of time and objectivity of those who write it. Now today, anti-Semitism, our hatred of Jews and a desire to see Israel destroyed, is coming back with a vengeance. And it's now being led by prominent left-wing politicians. And several leading Democrat politicians and presidential candidates are openly supporting anti-Semitism. I've just returned from my 5th trip to Poland, and you're going to see my interview with the Prime Minister a little later in the show. But one of my reasons for being there was to take part in a ceremony to pay respect to Polish Christians who risked their lives to save Jews during the Holocaust. Poland was the first country that the Nazis invaded in 1939. And what the Germans did to the Polish people, both Christian and Jew, left an ugly stain on humanity. While undoubtedly not every Pole was a hero, and some unfortunately cooperated with the invading Nazis to save their own skin, there were not only many Polish Christians who were savagely murdered by the Germans, but many others who were part of the resistance and risked their own lives and those of their very own families to save Jews who were specifically targeted by Hitler for annihilation. Now, the stories behind these until now unsung and mostly unknown heroes were the basis of the recognition given to them as righteous among the nations with a nonprofit foundation from the depths. It's led by a young British-born Israeli Jew named Johnny Daniels. By the way, one of the ladies honored was 106 years old, who during the war hid a young Jewish woman in her home. Another, a 99-year-old man who saved 53 Jews, who as a result of surviving went on to create ongoing generations of children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. I visited a farm near Radon, Poland, where a family living in a modest farmhouse hid 4 little Jewish girls under secret slats in their kitchen until the local mayor disclosed their deed to the Germans, who proceeded to take not just the 4 Jewish children, but the entire family of 10 people behind their barn and shoot them all in cold blood. One of the family's sons, who wasn't at home at the time, lost his whole family. But he was able, after the war, to keep the farm in the family to this day. Now, it is still a small, modest farm where a mother and her adult son do their best to make a living, but they are the remaining remnants of a family who deserve, for their story of heroism, to be kept alive. I visited the Nazi death camp at Medynik near Lublin, Poland. I was rocked to my core, just as I had been on 3 previous visits to Auschwitz. I visited and viewed the barracks, the guard towers, most tragically, the massive crematoriums where hundreds of thousands of Jews were gassed and their bodies burned. Now, it's important that these places remain open and that they remain like they were 70 years ago so that future generations will never forget the atrocities. The only explanation for the brutality of the Holocaust is pure, godless evil. There's those who carried out such despicable acts against innocent babies and children, men and women. They weren't just sick. They were evil to the core. I mean, look, we live in a mean and hateful world where people often take out their deep-rooted anger and bitterness toward others in some violent acts. But we should all warn ourselves that blind bigotry and hate can lead to sins that are so unspeakable that many have sought to actually deny they ever happened. The more history written and the more known about this period, the more we can hope that we don't ever allow it to happen again. But we should not only remember the heinous behavior of Satan's agents, but we should never forget the acts of selfless love as ordinary people took extraordinary risks to save others in their communities. These folks were the agents of God and His love. Today, the Nazis have no power anywhere, and the very mention of Hitler is not made kindly by any sane person. But we continue to learn of, herald, and honor those who truly were light in the darkness.